Good evening, students. So, how are you, students? Good evening, Ayush, Diksha Agarwal, and all others who are joined. Guys, please drop a mail. Please drop a mail so that I can know that all of you have joined in. So, students, we are into second part of this chapter, that is risk assessment and internal control. We had done the portion relating to audit risk and its components in our last lecture. So guys, I hope that you have well understood the meaning of audit risk, its various components, that is risk of material misstatement and detection risk. We had also understood that risk of material misstatement in turn consists of inherent risk and control risk. So guys, where the auditor assesses that a risk of material misstatement is high, maybe due to inherent risks, higher inherent risks present, or a deficient internal control system, then he increases his area of checking. He increases his sample size. Um, he plans the audit in such way that more substantive procedures need to be performed. So what is the purpose of all this? Because he would be wanting to keep his detection risk at low level so that his overall audit risk remains low, because risk of material misstatement has been assessed as high by him. So therefore he would try to keep his detection risk that he is not able to detect material misstatements. He would want to keep that risk at a low level so as to keep his audit risk at a low level. Okay, is that clear? So guys, next step, next topic in this chapter is internal control. But before we begin internal control, we shall discuss one more topic which is very important, that is understanding the entity. So guys, before starting, the auditor has to understand the company. He has to understand the entity which he is auditing. So unless and until he is able to understand the nature of the company, its operations, its business fields, its main shareholders, its investment pattern, he would not be able to do justice to his audit. Okay. So why an auditor needs to understand a company and why it is important? So we will read it technically in the language of auditing from your module, that why understanding the entity, why understanding a company is important from the point of view of an auditor. Okay guys. Yes guys, so screen is visible to you. The module chapter is clearly visible. So why understanding? Yes. it is the same. Both the topics are overlapping. So, Darshan, you are saying correctly. So, the understanding establishes a frame of reference within which auditor plans the audit and exercise professional judgment throughout the audit. For example, when assessing risks of material misstatements. So this understanding is very important when he assesses risks of material misstatement. And guys, you have to understand that this uh, this process of understanding the company is not a one shot affair. It is not a one step exercise that you have taken an overview and you have understood and now the job is over. While it is a dynamic process, while performing the audit, if you come to light, if some information comes to your light, then your understanding about the company would be updated. Okay. So understanding is also important for determining materiality in accordance with SA 320. Okay, if you do not know about the company, if you do not know uh, about trend of its profits, say, then how you are going to determine materiality? Or if you do not know about the operations of the company, then how you are able to make a judgment about the materiality? Okay. Yes, welcome Sankaran. I think you are joining the class for the first time. So considering appropriateness of selection and application of accounting policies. Now, whether the chosen accounting policies are appropriate or not, this would again depend upon the nature of business of the company. So, if in the given circumstances, the company adopts a particular accounting policy and the auditor is not clear about the nature of business of the company or the types of operations the company is in. So how he is going to assess whether a particular accounting policy adopted by the company is appropriate or not in those circumstances? Okay. So identifying those areas where special audit consideration may be necessary. Okay, for say related party transactions. Say if initially the auditor has a understanding that the company which he is going to audit, it is part of a larger group. Okay, and it has got subsidiaries, associates. Then obviously he would tailor his audit procedures in accordance with that. Okay, and it also helps in uh, developing analytical procedures, developing expectations for use when performing analytical procedures, and evaluating sufficiency and appropriateness of audit evidence, such as appropriateness of assumptions and of management's oral and written representations. Okay. So when the management is making a representation or it is formally or informally replying to the auditor, so if the auditor has made an overall study of the organization beforehand, and he knows about the company, he knows about its promoters, then he would be in a better position to judge the responses of the management of the company. Okay. Yes, Sankaran, you are writing that you were not able to sit for the last exams. Okay, that's a different issue, but I am asking you whether for this seventh batch, whether you are attending it for the first time for the seventh batch. So first three chapters, uh, do you know about all these already? Sankaran, tell me. And this topic, guys, this 2.3 topic, this is the same as in chapter 2. Okay, so we would not waste much of our time on this subtopic and just have a glance at it. So while understanding the company, what the auditor shall do, he shall obtain understanding of the relevant industry, what are the regulatory factors, what are the laws applicable in which kind of in industry the company is working in, the nature of its operations, as simple its ownership and governance structures, types of investments the company is making, the entities selection and application of accounting policies. Again, this point is coming. The entities objectives and strategies, what are the business goals and associated business risks. Okay, and the measurement and review of entities financial performance, how what has been the past performance of entity. So these all factors are important in understanding about the company, in gaining knowledge, in gaining insight into the structure, into the operations, and into the working of the management, into the financial performance and adherence to rules and regulations by the company. Okay, so we have already done this subtopic in quite detail in chapter 2. So it is same here, repetitive. Okay, so because it relates to SA 315, so that is why it is reproduced here. Okay, so now we shall be coming to our next topic in this chapter, that is internal control. That is internal control. So before we start internal control, Kiran Shukla, she is asking, please tell us how to write answer to theory questions. So yes, Kiran Shukla, I'll give you I will also try to give you a practical example at some later stage. For the time being, I can tell you, look, Kiran, theory questions in your exam can be of two types. Okay, I am talking about 70 marks paper. So 30 marks, you know, it consists of MCQs and objective questions followed, objective questions derived from case studies. And in 70 marks question, marks paper also, first question, that is compulsory. It consists of 7 incorrect type of questions which we are doing regularly in our previous session also, and in those questions you have to write whether the statement is correct or incorrect along with reasons. The reasons are also important, very important, because without writing reasons you would not be getting any credit. Now we come to the theory questions which you are asking of 3 marks, 4 marks. So some of these questions can be of direct type. Now, direct type, say direct type questions, we can say a question uh, like explain the different components of audit risk in brief. Okay, so let us say it is a 4-mark question. So this is a direct question. Okay, or another example of direct question could be say discuss the purpose of internal control. Okay, that is also a 3-marker, 3 marks question. So such type of questions are direct questions. So now unless you know all the key terms, all the components, you would not be able to write the answer. So therefore, for being able to write in the exam, you should not only understand while preparing, but you should learn these terms. Okay, all correct words, correct terms, what is their meaning. So while writing, many a times it comes into your mind that can we write in our own words? Yes, you can write, but you cannot change the meaning. You cannot change the meaning or intent. Okay, so say when you are writing about audit risk, say you have to write what is the meaning of audit risk. Say it is a 2-mark question, then obviously you would have to write that line, that audit risk is a risk when an auditor risk of expressing an inappropriate opinion by the auditor when financial statements are misstated. Okay, so now you cannot change the meaning of the whole sentence. So it is better to learn these key things, at least these key things. So as far as the narrative portion is concerned, so then you can remember the points. You can just remember the points. Like say we would be in a few minutes we would be discussing about limitations of internal control. Okay, so a question comes in your exam that discuss any 4 limitations of internal control. Now it is again direct question asking you to give 4 points of limitations of internal control. Okay, so if you remember the points, if you remember the headings of points, then you can expand on that in your own words. Write 4 points and 2-3 lines in this. In the examination scheme, probably there would be 1 mark each for 1 point. So if you write 3 points correctly, you would be getting 3 marks. If you write 4 points correctly, you would be getting 4 out of 4. And second type of questions are situation based question or application based question. So 3 marks or 4 marks where some little small situation is given to you. Okay, and you have to you have to explain what the auditor should do, what the CA should do, or what he is doing, or whether the whether the company's approach is proper, whether the auditor's approach is proper. So then in those questions, whatever is written, you have to carefully understand what the question wants to ask. Okay, what is the demand of question, what is the requirement of question, and then first in your mind link that situation to a particular topic which in your syllabus which the question is referring. Okay, so first thing is, if you are able to correctly link that situation to the correct topic, then half your job is done. It means that you have studied and you are able to link it up, and then apply that situation to your knowledge and write it in your own ways. Okay, so this is the whole thing. This is the whole knowledge of how you have to write. It is not only true of auditing paper, but of any paper, but of any of your CA papers. Yes, Kiran. Tell me, is your doubt resolved, Kiran? Yes, Kiran. Waiting for your mail. Is your doubt resolved so that we can proceed further? Yes, Kiran. Or you want to ask something more? Your mail hasn't come, Kiran. Yes. Now she is saying that she has understood. Okay. So guys, internal control. Now we have been studying this term broadly from chapter 1. Okay. From chapter 1, we have been studying that internal control is a system devised by the management to carry on its business in a proper way. Now we shall study the technical definition of internal control as per SA 315. As I have told you, this chapter is largely based upon SA 315. So name of the chapter itself is identifying and assessing risk of material misstatements through understanding the entity and it including its internal control. Okay, so it is there in the name of the essay. Now Varsha, you are asking in which questions essay number are necessary. Now there is no hard and fast rule. Varsha, the only thing I would like to tell you that write essay if you exactly know. If you exactly know the number, then write essay. Okay. Say if you correctly know that this situation or the question is asked from essay 315, then only write essay 315 states so. Otherwise, do not quote. Say if you quote wrongly, then you may be penalized. But if you do not quote, okay, so you are writing it in a slightly general way. So in that case, it may escape the attention of the person who is checking your copies. Okay. No, there is no separate essay for internal control. It is included in essay 315. It is included in essay 315. Yes, Darshan. So what is internal control? What is internal control? So I'm writing it for short. What is internal control? I see. So internal control is the process. It is a process, guys, you have to understand. It is the process designed, implemented, and maintained. It means designed, the management is designing it, it is forming it, it is conceptualizing it, and it is implemented by also by the management and maintained. That regular maintenance, that whether it operations are being carried out according to internal control or not. Okay, all these things, whether the system is operating effectively or not, whether the controls are operating effectively or not. So these are primary responsibility of the management. The auditor comes into the picture later on. The auditor's responsibility is to study the control system and to test the operating effectiveness of internal control. Okay, and to see whether the internal controls have been designed properly. So at the first place, like students, you can correlate with it with the financial statements. Now, whose responsibility is to prepare financial statements? It is a responsibility of management. Okay. And what is the responsibility of auditor? Responsibility of auditor is to express opinion on those financial statements. He at first place is not responsible for preparation. This is the responsibility of management. Correct preparation of financial statements is the response in accordance with the applicable reporting framework is responsibility of management. Similarly, the responsibility of internal control, the primary responsibility of internal control also lies with the management. Okay, it lies with the company. Not only of designing a proper system, but also of implementing it and maintaining it. So you have to remember these three words. So guys, in respect of key phrases, key terms, if you are able to write your definition, if you are able to remember the definition or all the components of definition correctly, then in auditing paper 60% of your work is done. Because why? You would ask why? Because you can apply those parts, those components in writing answers. So if you correctly write, if you correctly remember the definition of internal control, say while writing other answers also, you may try to use the words which you have remembered for internal control definitions by linking, by making a links between your minds. Okay. So guys, isn't it interesting, guys? So I am also simultaneously giving you tips about how to learn. Okay. So internal control is a process designed, implemented by management, those charged with governance and other personnel to provide reasonable assurance about what? Four things. Now this definition talks about four things. First thing is about the achievement of entities' objectives with regard to reliability of financial reporting. Okay, so this is the first thing. That what does it mean? It means that the financial statements of entities are reliable, that controls are made in such a way that information which they are capturing for preparation of financial statements and which is ultimately reflected in financial statements, that is reliable. Okay. And second point is effectiveness and efficiency of operations, that obviously the operations are carried out effectively and efficiently by the business. It is in the interest of business itself. It is in the interest of company itself. Say if they are not, if they have not made a proper control system on inventories, so the employees might be involved in theft, in pilferage, okay, in looting the company. The resources of company might be uh, looted by the employees or other officials of the company. Okay. And safeguarding of assets. So it is also related to second point. So effectiveness and efficiency is also related to that operations are carried out to the optimum. Say like the wastage is minimum. Okay, so all these things. And fourth point is compliance with applicable laws and regulations. That all regulations are complied with. All laws and regulations are complied with. So, and Mohit and Syed, you are asking what is the difference between management and those charged with governance? So, there is a thin difference between management and those charged with governance. Say in smaller companies, there is no difference. Say in case of a partnership firm consisting of two partners operating on a small scale, the persons who are the owners, they are also responsible for governing the business. So there is no difference. But say in case of bigger companies, say in case of a listed company, uh, there may be board of directors, there can be say audit committee, okay, uh, responsible for having an oversight on financial reporting. So in those cases there would be difference. So basically for your understanding, you can understand at this stage at your intermediate level that these refer to broadly as management. The subtle, the finer distinctive points I have explained to you. Okay, Mohit and Syed, hope it is clear to you. So guys, four things. So charged with governance means the people who are directly responsible for administration of the company, for the governance of the company. Say some people are sitting behind in the boardrooms, but they are not involved in governance functions of the company on a daily basis. Okay, so is that clear? Is that clear to you, Mohit? So internal control, guys, internal control relates to 4 points. Internal control relates to 4 points. So first point, what was the first point? It ensures reliability of financial reporting. This was the first point. Okay, and second point is, what was the second point? It ensures effectiveness and efficiency of operations. It should ensure efficiency and effectiveness of operations. And third point relates to safeguarding of assets. Whatever the assets of the company, of the entity are, these should be safeguarded. So the controls should be geared towards that. These should be directed towards that all the assets, say not only fixed assets, other valuable assets, stocks, cash, these are safeguarded at all times. Okay. And fourth point is compliance with applicable laws and regulations. So Mohit, you are saying that uh, being taught in a simple manner, is it a good thing or bad thing? I do not know, but I feel that for making you understand the concepts, for making you understand the things, it is better to explain in general words. Okay, see, if I read everything from your module as it is, okay, then how I will be able to make you understand unless I express in my own words, in my own simplified language. Okay. So this is my opinion. Okay, guys. So you have understood, guys, four things. Four things to which internal control relates. Now, Kiran, again I come to your thing about writing in the exam. Say now if we take the definition of internal control, if you are able to learn all these 4 points, okay, then as you will see in few minutes, next 4 pages of this chapter, these are all derived from all these 4 points. Okay, so more than 60-70% work of you is already accomplished, because आपको चाहे इस डेफिनेशन को आधा घंटा या 1 घंटा लगा के क्यों ना याद करना पड़े, लेकिन आपको याद करना है. ओके, सो इज दैट क्लियर? So it would help you in many ways. It would help you in applying the same to the situational questions, on even in case studies, or in the small 3 marks question where it is given whether it is proper on the part of auditor, whether the approach of auditor is proper or not. Okay, or whether the company is right in doing so or not. So broadly, first understand the topic, then learn the key thing, learn the spirit of it, what it is trying to say, and learn those keywords, and then write it in your own words. Okay, so objectives of internal control. Now we come to objectives of internal control. So these are all derived from the definition of internal control, that transactions are executed in accordance with management's authorization. So what the management wants to do, the same thing is happening. It means just that. Okay, so if the management has said that this work is the duty of this person, then it is being performed by that person. So all the management instructions are executed in accordance with the management's general or specific authorization. Say in case of bank, we take the example of bank. You go to the bank for audit. Okay. So you ask the bank manager to give you a duty register, rotation register, roster register. So what you are trying to do? You are trying to see that what are the duties assigned to a person in the branch. Say there are 10 persons in the branch, whether that person is doing the work. Okay, and you would also be seeing whether those duties are being rotated as uh, required by as may be required by the management. Okay. So number 2, transactions are promptly recorded in the correct amount in the appropriate accounts. So simple. Tabhi it is only when transactions are recorded in correct amount in appropriate accounts, then financial statements would be reflecting true picture. Then the financial reporting would be reliable. So how, in absence of it, how financial reporting would be reliable? Okay. Assets are safeguarded. So this point is again safeguarding of assets. Okay, assets are safeguarded from unauthorized access, use, or disposition. Say, what does it mean? Say that nobody is able to access the data. unauthorizedly. Okay, proper controls exist, or the assets are not disposed of. These are not sold off without the without proper permission. So the recorded assets are compared with existing assets. So it is also necessary not only for safeguarding of assets, but for also proper functioning of the company, for proper operations of the company. Okay, so clear, guys. And one more thing, the auditor shall obtain an understanding of internal controls relevant to the audit. So guys, you can understand that in a large company, say, or even in small companies, there may be controls which are not relevant for a financial audit. We are talking about only about the controls which are relevant for relevant to the audit. So the auditor has to judge whether that control is relevant to him or not. Okay, say there might be some controls relating to the manufacturing operations of the company, relating to plant of the company. Now the auditor need not go into all these nitty-gritties, all these details. Okay, so most controls relevant to the audit are likely to relate to financial reporting. Okay, not all controls that relate to financial reporting are relevant. Even in financial reporting, there can be some controls which are not relevant. Okay, so this we would be discussing later on. This is coming later on in detail. So it is a matter of professional judgment of auditor whether a control individually or in combination with others is relevant for audit or not. Okay, so I tell you that a correct incorrect question can be formed out of this. Say, like, you may be asked in your exams, all internal controls operating in a company are relevant for an audit. Say the question is like that, all internal controls operating in an organization are relevant for a financial statement audit. Now this is a primarily untrue statement. This is incorrect. Only those controls which are relevant for an audit, okay, these are, all controls are not relevant. So you have to write in that way, because the auditor is concerned with financial reporting. So students, now what is the benefit of understanding internal control? So this, you can say, these are the advantages. So again, these are derived from what? These are derived from the definition which we have studied, SA 315, which we have studied just now. So kya tha? What was there in the definition? That internal controls are intending to provide reasonable assurance about the reliability of financial reporting. So when there is reliability of financial reporting and the auditor is understanding how the controls are operating, so it helps him in identifying potential misstatements. Okay, if the controls are operating satisfactorily, then he knows that control system of the company is strong, it is robust, it is working properly. Okay, and where control system is weak, it is deficient, then there are more likely chances of errors and frauds. So it helps auditor in identifying potential misstatements. Potential misstatements. So now we are talking about controls. So in controls, when the auditor is studying about the controls, then if a control is found deficient, even then there is a possibility that misstatements might not happen. But it is likely to give an opportunity to the auditor to identify what kind of misstatements can occur because the control is weak. Okay, clear? So identifying the factors that assess the risk of material misstatements. So he can, by understanding the controls, he can see, he can judge that what could be the possibilities of material misstatements, what are the factors, what are the risks, what are the chances of material misstatements. Okay, and it also helps him in designing the nature, timing, and extent of his further audit procedures. So understanding controls would help him in deciding his area of checking. Usko, the auditor would come to know how his substantive procedures should like be, whether he wants to check more, whether or he wants to check less, what should be his sample size. Okay, so all these things, what kind of substantive analytical procedures he should perform. So it helps him in designing, it helps him in conceptualizing those procedures. Okay, because it is only when the auditor has studied the internal control system, he would be in a position to design about further audit procedures. Clear, guys? Purpose of internal control already done. Again, those 4 points, Kiran Shukla, remember what I had told you. All these are derived from the definition of internal control. SA 315. Okay, reliability. So reliability of financial reporting, effectiveness and efficiency of its operation, safeguarding of assets, compliance with laws and regulations. So guys, compliance with laws and regulation is also an important purpose of internal control. That why it is an important purpose. Say if the entity, if a company forgets, say to make compliance with various laws, like to make compliance with GST laws, or say pollution control laws or other laws which may be applicable to the company. Then if the company is not compliant, then how does it affect the auditor? Tell me. How does it affect the auditor? Can you tell? Say if an entity is not, if a company is not compliant with laws and regulations, then how does it affect the auditor? How does it affect the auditor? So say if the company is not compliant, then it increases the possibilities of misstatements, because if the company is not compliant, number one, say company is not complying with pollution laws, then pollution authorities might slap a notice on the company. Okay, the company may be asked to deposit penalty. The penalty may be material. Okay, the company, there would be increased risk that the company is not disclosing information on this count. If the say company has not yet paid the penalty and the information is not in the reflected in the books of accounts and financial statements, and company may skip the disclosure. Okay, whereas disclosure might be required. Okay, because non-compliance with various laws and regulations may involve hefty penalties. So ultimately, if it involves very hefty penalties, then it is going to affect the opinion of the auditor. It would increase his audit risk. So step by step, guys, if you understand all the things step by step, there would be a chain. जिसको we say chain, you understand, guys? Hindi में to the all the students from North India, so हिंदी में एक वर्ड है, दिवाली के टाइम गाइस वो पटाखों की लड़ी आती है ना एक, तो हाउ डज इट बर्स्ट? ओके, सो like that there would be a complete chain. You try to correlate, guys. Auditing is such a beautiful subject, it is such a simple subject, but you have to think it logically. Okay, so clear. Now limitations of internal control. So again, Kiran Shukla, again, if you remember the definition clearly, say, and before the exam, say you just had a glance at limitations on internal control, but you had no time while revising to we assume, say that you do not have much time in one holiday, you skipped that topic while quickly going through your pages, going through the pages of your module, and the question comes in your exam on the limitations of internal control. Okay, but say if you remember the definition correctly, then you would be able to write at least 2-3 limitations by yourself in the exam. You can make it yourself and you would be given full credit, because what you would be writing, that would be logical. Okay, so one thing is, so we had read in the definition of internal control that internal control only provides reasonable assurance. So when something provides reasonable assurance, it becomes its limitation, isn't it? Say in case of audit also, we know that audit provides reasonable assurance. So because of it in itself is a limitation, because audit is not providing a 100% guarantee. So similarly, internal control is also providing reasonable assurance. Say why it provides reasonable assurance? Because no system can be foolproof. There can always be loopholes. There can always be gaps. Okay, which can be used by the skillful, by the unscrupulous employees to their advantage. Okay, so no system, however good it is prone to misuse. It can be misused. So therefore we say that internal control provides only reasonable assurance. Okay, it can be bypassed. Human judgment in decision making. So any control system is dependent upon people. People are very important. काम तो आपको लोगों से करवाना है. You have to make the people work for you. A business has to make the people work for them. So there is a human judgment involved. Human judgment can be faulty. So there can be errors, genuine errors made by the employees of the company with no malified intention. Okay. Or there may be a design in the defect in the design of the control itself. Okay, while designing a particular control, the management did not consider that point. Okay, and therefore, when the system is in implementation, when it is actually happening, it is causing errors. Clear? Number 3, lack of understanding for the purpose. So what does it mean? Lack of understanding the purpose. Say it might happen that management has devised a control for a particular purpose. किसी एक पर्पस के लिए मैनेजमेंट हैज डिवाइस द कंट्रोल, बट द एम्प्लॉइज हैव नॉट understood the purpose, so they are actually implementing it in their own way. So let us understand it very simplistically from the point of view of law, from the point of view of citizens and government. Say it not directly relates to internal control, but I am just trying to link up the things. Say the government has passed a law, passed legislation, the parliament has passed a legislation with a particular intent, with a particular purpose. But say that legislation, that purpose, the persons who are, it may so happen that the persons, the employees of the government who are to enforce that legislation, they are not understanding its purpose, they are not understanding its intent in the right way. Okay, so very simplistic example, trying to just explain to you what the lack of understanding means. Okay, say there is example given here. Say in companies, the software, the system produces some exception report. So in banks also exception reports are generated daily. So what are exception reports? So say if a transaction is not happening according to a parameter, certain parameters, okay, then exception report is generated. Okay, so there might be genuine difficulty of the customer of the bank, or it may so happen that management itself has allowed, that branch manager has itself allowed that transaction to happen genuinely. Okay, so or it might so happen that that some transactions are happening which do not fall in those parameters. But say the bank manager, he thinks that he doesn't need to study the exception report. What is the use of wasting time in those exception reports? Because why? Because he does not understand the intent of exception reports. कि ये क्या क्या दिखा सकता है और how it can be helpful in his control over the branch. तो वो he might think एक और मुसीबत है, it is another trouble, आप exception report भी देखो. Okay, so this kind of attitude. Collusion among people. So what is collusion among people? So again relating to the definition of internal control. So no system is foolproof. Two people might collude, मिली भगत मिल जाए, so they can bypass any system. Okay, So collusion among people to bypass the internal control. Judgments by the management. So judgments of management might be wrong, and limitations in case of small entities. Now this is also important. Say students, in smaller companies, in smaller entities, uh, it might so happen that control systems are not that much formal. Say if a small firm is there, partnership firm is there, say having turnover of 25 crore, then how you can compare it with the company which is having turnover of a say 1500 crores? You cannot. The control systems in the company with 1500 crores would be formal, would be institutionalized, would be structured. Like there would be there would be employees, and their duties would be clearly described, okay, in the documents of the company. Okay, there would be clear guidelines which work is to be performed by whom, and who is responsible for that work, and how control over their activities is to be maintained, who would supervise it. But in smaller companies, in smaller organizations, it may not be the case, because here, but in those companies, one person might be doing five type of works, because the company, the organization cannot simply afford to keep so many people. Okay, or the owner himself be doing many such type of things, or he may be involved not only in the daily operations of the company, but he would be making purchases himself, he would be selling himself, he would be dealing with customers also, and he might be taking interest in the maintenance of books of accounts also. So what are the plus and minus of that? Now what are the pros and cons of that? What are the advantages and disadvantages of that? So the advantage, it also has advantages. So what is advantage? The advantage is that since the person himself, say the owner himself is involved in so many things, so everything is within his knowledge. Okay, so he is able to exercise tight control over everything. It is his business. He knows that he has to earn his living. He has to grow his business. So he is having a tight control over everything. And what is the downside to it? Say it if something, if all the things are in the hands of a single person, he is exercising a tight control, then he can also manipulate if he wants to, because everything is in hands. Okay, so uh, there can be more scope of misstatements also. Okay, now controls relevant for audit. Now what we had discussed initially, controls relevant to audit. There is a direct relationship between entities' objectives and controls it implements. It is controls. It is this word, not this. Controls. थोड़ा आगे चला गया ये. Controls it implements to provide reasonable assurance about their achievement. Okay, but not all controls are relevant. Not all controls are relevant. Now, what are the factors which help in identifying whether a control is relevant or not? Now, this is again a 4-mark question. अच्छा क्वेश्चन बन सकता है. Direct question: what are the factors? Which are the factors which would help you in deciding whether a control is relevant to the audit or not? Okay, so simple. You have to write these factors. Just heading, say factor materiality, whether that is material. Okay, and what is the significance of related risk? Say if the work is not, if the control is not operating as intended, then what is the risk, and what is the importance of that risk? What is the significance of that risk? Okay. Similarly, the size of the company. Okay. Say if there is very significant control and the size of company is also large, then if the control is not operating, then satisfactorily, or it is a faulty control, then it could have a huge impact. It could have a multiplier effect. It could affect it may affect many elements of financial statements. Okay. So the nature of the company's business. So everything is connected to the nature of business. So ये तो आपका guys general point है. Nature of entity's business. This you would see it is coming again and again. Okay. अगर कहीं किसी क्वेश्चन में कुछ ना समझ में आ रहा हो तो रेलिवेंट नेचर ऑफ बिजनेस उसमें जरूर होना चाहिए. ये भी एक आप उसको टिप ले लें. ओके. नेचर ऑफ बिजनेस तो आपको जरूर याद रखना है. नेचर ऑफ बिजनेस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. द डाइवर्सिटी एंड कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ इट्स ऑपरेशंस, एप्लीकेबल लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट्स. सिंपल एप्लीकेबल लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट्स क्या है, उससे डिसाइड होगा कंट्रोल रेलिवेंट है कि नहीं. एंड सच टाइप ऑफ थिंग्स. ये कंपोनेंट ऑफ इंटरनल कंट्रोल वाला पॉइंट, ये आगे पॉइंट्स रिलेटेड है तो इसको हम वहीं लेंगे. सो on this page guys, three examples are given. These are rather not examples, shape theory in the shape of examples. These are also in essay 315. So I would try to explain to you in these general terms. So first we will take this. So controls relating to the objectives that are not relevant to an audit. So इसमें एक एग्जाम्पल दिया हुआ है. वो एग्जाम्पल इसमें एक देयर इज एन एयरलाइंस कंपनी. देयर इज एन एयरलाइंस. So company is having controls that all flights, okay, flight schedules are maintained properly, and there are automated controls relating to this. Now maintaining flight schedules, किस फ्लाइट का क्या शेड्यूल है, टाइम, लैंडिंग, डिपार्चर, all these things. Now this is one of the primary objectives of a part of the objective of an airlines. अगर फ्लाइट्स ठीक टाइम पे नहीं चलेंगी या उनके शेड्यूल में गड़बड़ है या डिपार्चर अराइवल ठीक नहीं है, obviously the company would not be able to run properly. So there are automated controls in this respect. Computer-based, system-based control. Now tell me whether such type of controls are relevant for a financial statements audit. So whether what would auditor gain to see whether these controls are operating as intended or not. Okay. So such type of controls may not be relevant. These are not ordinarily relevant for an auditor. Okay, so this is an example given in SA 315. You understand now, guys? It is clear. So another thing is given, internal control over safeguarding of assets. Now about internal control over safeguarding of assets. That what is the purpose of such controls? At the first, what is the purpose of such control? The purpose of such controls would be that assets are safeguarded. These are not put to any unauthorized use. These are not disposed of without the knowledge of management, and these are put to the use for which these are required. ओके, कोई किसी एम्प्लॉय की पर्सनल यूज के लिए तो यूज नहीं हो रही, कोई पर्सनल बेनिफिट तो नहीं ले रहा उससे. ओके, so the such type of controls are related to both financial reporting and operations objectives. ओके, so दोनों के लिए ये कंट्रोल रिलेट हो सकते हैं, फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग के लिए भी और ऑपरेशन ऑब्जेक्टिव के लिए भी. ओके, so the auditor's consideration for such control is limited to those relevant to the reliability of financial reporting. Okay, like say if there is a control that say computer system data of a cashier or the person who is making cash payments, access to his system is protected, there is a password. Okay, so this control would be relevant to the auditor. Why? Because it would help him in ensure that only an authorized person is running that system, that there is a password and which is protected. But say there may be controls relating to in-house keeping. से कि एक प्रोडक्ट को बनाने में 5 टाइप के रॉ मटेरियल यूज होते हैं. देयर आर 5 टाइप्स ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल. सो से whether A material has been put in more quantity than B type of raw material. Okay, so these type of controls might not be relevant for a financial statements audit. Okay, so now what the auditor is not ordinarily concerned with all these things. Okay, because he is concerned with what ultimately affects his opinion on the financial statements. Okay, clear guys? Is that clear? Yes guys. So controls over completeness and accuracy of information. Now this is also a example given in SA 315. Say, so we first consider the example. Say if the auditor wants to be assured about the total sales of the company, total revenue of the company, the auditor wants to be assured about it. And we also assume there is one product of the company, and say the price was changed only twice during the year. So we know there are 2 standard prices, and say prices change from 1st October. So for one half, this was the price, and of the second half, all the billing is on the same price. Okay. So the auditor can also cross check the sales by applying quantity sold of the first half year with the prices of that half year and of subsequent half year with quantity sold to the prices prevailing in second half year. Okay. So the auditor would consider the accuracy of price information and accuracy of sales volume data. So the auditor would consider, what would be the purpose of auditor? The auditor would consider whether the price given to him, whether the controls relating to the prices are working properly or not, because he is making a judgment on the revenues of the company by looking at the price figure. Okay, so he would see whether the controls over the prices are operating effectively, and whether the controls over the quantity sold are operating effectively. Okay, so he would ensure that controls over completeness and accuracy of information are working properly. Okay, so clear to you guys? So such controls would be relevant to him only when he is trying to make a judgment. He is trying to make a decision about this. Only then these controls would be relevant to him. So these are some of the examples given in Essay 315. Yes, guys, are all these three points clear? Yes, students, tell me, are these 3 points clear to you? And next thing is nature and extent of understanding of relevant controls. So when say control, the auditor is evaluating the design of a control. कि control कोई ठीक बना है कि नहीं? So what are the consideration? So what is the auditor's objective? The auditor objective is कि the control is capable of preventing material misstatement at the first stage, or if it is not able to prevent, then detect and correct. So this type of line is also very important for you to remember, guys, because these kind of lines, these also you can use in exams in your liberty, at your liberty. These type of lines would also fit in your answers at many places. Okay, so when say I am an auditor, so I am evaluating a control relating to the design of a control. I am evaluating design of a control, whether it would be effective or not. So what is my objective? My objective at all times would be that control should be such that first, either it is able to prevent material misstatement, or it is, if misstatement happens, then it is able to detect and correct. अगर कोई गलती हो जाए, एरर हो जाए या फ्रॉड हो जाए, तो उसको डिटेक्ट और करेक्ट कर सके. So this type of lines you would find at many places, not only in this chapter but in your whole of your content of modules. Okay, so an improperly designed control, if a control is not properly designed, it represents a significant deficiency in internal control. Say if a control is not designed properly, then it represents a significant deficiency, then it is a weakness. it is a significant deficiency. Now, Darshan, you are asking control is not effective and efficient. The auditor would have to pinpoint what are the misstatements. Say when he assesses that control is not effective and efficient. The auditor has assessed the control is effective and efficient, is not effective and efficient. Then how he can jump directly to a modified opinion? How he would jump to that conclusion? He would only assess, it would mean that control risk is high, that there is a risk that there could be misstatements in the financial statements which could be material. So obviously, first of all, he would increase area of his checking. He would design his audit procedures in such a way to dig out material misstatements, the possibility of which is there. If he is able to dig out material misstatements because of inefficient control systems, then only he will be in a position to modify. Then he will only be in a position to modify his opinion. Okay. So Darshan, is it clear to you? So these kind of statements represent, these kind of things represent significant deficiencies. Say we studied by a simple example. Say students, the management has devised a control. Say we are talking about a manufacturing company. Okay. So it has got say 10 plants in the country. Assume 10 plants in the country are there. And the company has taken, say, insurance policies of all these plants and of other assets against, say, different type of mishappenings, like to cover risk of fire, other risk, to cover risk of earthquake, and all sort of things. Now say for all these things for different plants, say many policies are to be taken, and the company has also insured, say, assume its workforce, and there are about 100 200 policies which the company for covering its plants at different locations, for covering its plants, its assets, its buildings, its machinery, its stocks. So now the company has developed a control that whenever a policy becomes due, before 7 days or 10 days, an alert comes to the responsible person that this policy is going to premium on this policy is going to become due. Obviously, management would be interested in safeguarding its assets. Okay. It is the objective of management that its assets are always safe and they remain always protected, that in case some loss happens, it doesn't turn out to be a huge business loss for the company. So guys, say if the controls in this respect are not operating satisfactorily, or say if the system, the management has devised a control that there should be automatic system generated reports to alert the persons who are responsible for getting renewals done. If those reports are not being generated, okay, if the design of control is such that those reports are not being generated timely, then what would happen? You can understand. So it would be a significant deficiency in control system. Okay. And you have understood, guys. So risk assessment procedures to obtain audit evidence about design and implementation of internal control. This we have already done in our previous lecture. What do risk assessment procedures include? Inquiry, inspection, observation, inspecting the documents, inquiry, and performing analytical procedures. Okay. Now we come to components of internal control. Now we come to components of internal control. So students, you have to understand that there are 5 components of internal control. So how many components of internal control are there? 5 components. So there are 5 components of internal control. So let us see what are the 5 components of internal control. Five components of internal control. First of all, you have to remember their names. Students, again, अगर आपको नाम याद है, if you are able to remember the names, half of the work is done. At least examiner knows, paper checker knows that you know the names properly. Okay. So 5 components क्या है? So quickly we would just know the names only, and thereafter we shall study. Okay. So 5 components are control environment. Second is entities risk assessment process. Okay. And third is information system and communication. And fourth is control activities itself. And fifth is monitoring of controls. So these are the 5 components. The names you have to remember. And guys, you have to understand that these 5 components are being taught to you. These are not to be found. These some of these might not be tangible, but these components, the purpose of making you study these components is to give you a clear picture about what things go to constitute a whole internal control system. Okay. While auditing, you do not find tangibly, physically, you do not find control environment. You can only feel it, you can assess it. Okay. So we will be taking a break of 10 minutes here at this stage. So guys, see you after 10 minutes. Break for 10 minutes. Yes, welcome back, guys. So, guys, we were studying about the components of internal control. So, first component is control environment. So, guys, first I will explain these components in a very general, loose, broad way, and then we will quickly go through the contents of your module. So, what is control environment? Yes, guys, what is control environment? So, guys, who devises the controls? Who devises the control system? Who devises the internal control? Management. Obviously, the company, the management, they are responsible for devising the control. So, what type of people they are, what type of people management is, what are their ethical values, whether they promote the culture of honesty, okay, what type of employees they are hiring, how much do they care about their employees, okay, what is their governance structure, how they delegate their responsibilities, do they uh, promote team culture, do they promote teamwork, or they work in a typical hierarchical system. So all these things go to make control environment of a company. Okay. So guys, if the management is honest, management is ethical, the people behind these are not habitual offenders, like genuine mistakes, genuine errors can always be there. But say if the concerned promoters are say uh, are violating SEBI law, SEBI regulations regularly, okay, or if the company is in habit of violating laws, say I am a company and I deduct TDS from various vendors, okay, from the persons from whom I am outsourcing some things, and I do not deposit it with the government in a routine manner. So besides having implications in law, besides having legal consequences of it, so what does it show? So it shows uh, that management is a habitual offender, okay, or say they are they are they are they are in the habit of taking more credit facilities from the banks. They are fudging their accounts. So if their intent is such, then what kind of control systems they would be devising or implementing in their organization? You can very much well understand. Okay, so these all factors go to make a control environment. Say if a company is caring about its employees, okay, it is conducting training sessions, it is paying good compensation packages, okay, um, in short you can say it is adopting good HR policies, then the the control environment of the company is satisfactory. It would promote culture of ethical behavior, culture of honesty down the line in the whole organization itself. Okay, say if the bosses, if the senior ups in the company listen to their employees, if they trust on their employees, delegate the responsibilities properly and supervise the work, okay, so all these kind of things go to make a satisfactory control environment. So, but you have also to understand that a satisfactory control environment by itself does not guarantee that control system is operating effectively, that there would be no deficiencies in the control system, as a result of which there would be no material misstatements. It is just a pointer. It is just an indicator. Okay. By itself, it it does not ensure this thing. Okay. Clear, guys? So what do we mean by control system? It is clear to you? Yes, guys, no mails. What do we mean by control environment broadly? Is that clear to you? Now we come to entities risk assessment process. Now, what is entities risk assessment process? Now, students, there are two things. So हम risk की बात कर रहे हैं. Till now you have studied audit risk. Now we are talking about business risk. Like there is an audit risk. I am an auditor. So there is a risk for me that I would be issuing an inappropriate report. I would be issuing an inappropriate opinion. Okay. Similarly, there is a business risk for a company. What could be the business risk? Say, example, say the demand of the company's goods might drastically fall. The new competitors are coming. Okay. Or say a new model of business has come, as a result of which the company is not able to survive. Okay. Like say this online delivery platforms have come. So earlier these were not there, say 10 years before. Okay. So this is a different type of business model. Similarly, when mobile phones came in late 90s, okay, when probably you were born. So pagers, earlier there were pagers. Before mobiles came, there were pagers. So pagers went out of the business because these were not required. So there are risks in every business. So these are called business risks. Simply, these are called business risks. Now, what do we mean by entities or say companies risk assessment process? It simply means that the company identifies its business risks. It has a plan in place to deal with business risks. Okay. It assesses what is the possibility that these risks would materialize, that these risks would occur. Okay. So the company, the entity, it devises those strategies to deal with those risks. So this is also a component of internal risk, that the company overall, it has got in place a policy, a plan to deal with various identified business risks, which are peculiar to that company, which are relevant to that company. And it has a process, it has a risk assessment process, which is part of overall larger internal control system. So what was the definition of internal control? I would take you to the definition of internal control. Okay, that financial reporting is reliable, efficiency and effectiveness of operations. Say guys, if entity does not have a proper risk assessment process, let us assume it does not identify business risk. Okay. say the company's sales have fallen dramatically, it has come down say from 50 crores to 2 crores, but it does not know how to address the situation, how to deal with the risks, whether it should go in for a new product or should modify its existing product. Okay. So is so if there is no risk assessment strategy, no risk assessment process to deal with, then obviously it would impact the reliability of financial reporting. You will say how? Say if the company is not able to survive this downturn in the business, say, and it is preparing its accounts on a going concern assumption, that going concern assumption, you know that business is likely to continue in foreseeable future. However, in such a case, the company may be shut down in next year. Okay, so in that case, the financial statements would prepared would not be uh, reliable, because adequate disclosures would not be there or wrong assumptions could be made. So clear guys, broadly, business risk and entities business risk assessment process. समझ गए आप? Tell me guys. And guys, you have to make a distinction, make a differentiation in your minds between audit risk and business risk. Audit risk अलग चीज है, business risk is a different thing, which I have explained to you by way of an example. Clear? Yes. Now third thing. Third thing is information system. Information system including related business processes relevant to financial reporting and communication. So this is the complete name of this component. I have written in short, keeping in view the space availability on the whiteboard. So the third point is, I am again repeating it, information system including the related business processes relevant to financial reporting and communication. So what is information system? Guys, yes, what is information system? Can you tell? What constitutes an information system? What is an information system? Can anybody tell? Yes, guys. What is an information system? Arya Shanbag, you are writing that this is your first class. Then Arya, how you will be able to understand if you have not read first 3 chapters? Yes, Darshan, you are writing management of information through computers. Yes, on the right track. So information system, guys, means consists of say hardware, physical assets, software, data, okay, procedures and people. Okay, this is all information system all about. So auditor has to study the information system, whether it produces valid output. Okay, and he would study also controls relating to information system, like these may be application controls or general IT controls. So application, you understand na? In software there are different applications. So whether the application in which say accounts are being prepared, which is giving its output, whether this in itself is okay, whether there is arithmetical accuracy in it, okay, or example of an general IT control could be control relating to passwords, and whether all the procedures relating to financial reporting are communicated among the in the organization. Okay, so this is the broad meaning of this component, that this is also a part. Okay, so guys, do not forget the big picture. So we are understanding the concept of internal control generally, model of internal control, what things constitute an internal control, components, what do components mean, by which a thing is formed. So if there is some concept like internal control, then we are breaking it into 5 parts. Okay, first part is control environment, second is companies or entities risk assessment process, third part is information system, okay, including related business processes relevant for financial reporting and communication. And what is fourth? Fourth is control activities itself. Okay, so what are control activities? Control activities mean, so whatever things the management has devised, okay, so there must be a system of supervision that these activities are being adhered to. So control में भी तो overall control में भी उसका एक component control activities है, like say different employees के performance reviews, like जो बजटेड टारगेट थे क्या वो अचीव हुए कि नहीं हुए, ओके, एंड दीज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स. And another thing could be relating to this is segregation of duties, like different functions are performed by different persons. And another last component is monitoring of controls, that overall monitoring relating to controls. Okay, so guys, all first what you have to do, you have to first of all try to remember the correct names of these 5 components. First of all, while studying this topic subtopic, try to remember the 5 names of components of internal control. जब आपको बिल्कुल ठीक तरह से names remember हो गए, then you make a picture in your mind, what do these things deal about, okay, and then try to remember 1-2 paras regarding all these 5 components, what do these deal with, what do these mean, okay, so that would be suffice for you, and you would be able to handle any question relating to components of internal control. Okay, so now guys, let us see what is there in your module. Yes. Components of internal control. So 5 components we have seen. Now, what is included in control environment? The governance and management functions, the attitude, awareness of the management, मैनेजमेंट का एटीट्यूड क्या है, एंड द कंट्रोल एनवायरनमेंट सेट्स द टोन ऑफ एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अफेक्टिंग द कंट्रोल कॉन्शियसनेस ऑफ पीपल. सो एलिमेंट्स ऑफ इंटरनल कंट्रोल. सो क्या क्या चीजें आती हैं कंट्रोल एनवायरनमेंट में? एलिमेंट्स ऑफ कंट्रोल एनवायरनमेंट, सॉरी, communication and enforcement of integrity and ethical values. I have already told you ethical values. If the management is ethical, then these ethical values have to be communicated down the line through the training programs, through the system, through the literature. Okay, commitment to competence. ओके, मैनेजमेंट जो है पर्टिकुलर जॉब्स के लिए प्रॉपर लोग सिलेक्ट करती है. ओके, सो दैट these persons add value to the company. Okay, so if the management is not hiring good people, then how it would be able to achieve its objectives? Very simple. Participation by those charged with governance. जो लोग, the people who are responsible for governing the company, they are, what is their experience, what is their skill, whether they are independent from the management, and what information they receive, management's philosophy and operating style. So how does management function? Say whether it is aggressive or whether it is prudent. Okay, how does it manage the risks? So all these kind of things, the general. So guys, just you have to understand the whole thing, whole points, and you can write it in your own way. Organizational structure कैसा है, whether it is hierarchical or team based, how responsibilities are delegated, human resource policies and practices. This is also very important. HR policies, I have told you. HR policies, like policies relating to training, compensation, evaluation. So if a company is adopting good HR policies, obviously its employees would be satisfied, isn't it? There would be less incentive for them to commit frauds, isn't it so? But still fraud can happen, but we are talking about possibilities. Okay, so there are some companies who are very good at employee retention. Because why? Because their whole culture, their organization culture is such that they are offering, they are good paymasters, they are offering good compensation, they take care of their employees, they help in honing up their skills. Okay, they regularly conduct training programs, they give due promotions. Okay, so all these go to make good HR policies, human resource policies. Okay, so clear guys, control environment is clear. Now entities risk assessment process, this we have also done. Now entities risk assessment process is, it, the auditor shall obtain an understanding of whether the entity has a process for identifying business risks, for estimating now significance of these risks. Now you have to remember all these 4 points. Remember 4 points. Assessing likelihood of their occurrence and deciding about actions. All these 4 things which I had told you. First of all, identify the business risk. Second, estimating significance. How important is that business risk? And third is, what is the possibility of it happening? Okay. And fourth is deciding the action to manage those risks. Simple. So you have to see why you are studying entities risk assessment process. Why it is important for an auditor? Why? Because if the auditor understands the business risks of the company and it knows that the company has a plan to deal with those business risks, so it is also going to have an impact upon his audit risk. Say, guys, if the company doesn't have a plan to deal with its business risk, then audit risk of the for the auditor would also increase. Okay. There would be greater chances of his expressing an inappropriate opinion because the company doesn't have a strategy, proper strategy to deal with the business risks. Okay. Clear? Yes, students, is it clear to you? Next thing is the information system, including the related business processes relevant to financial reporting and communication. This is also component of control, and this is a mistake here, guys. It is not control environment, it is component of internal control. So information system, I already told you. What do we mean by information system? Hardware, software, data, procedures, and people. These all five things make information system. So the auditor needs to study the information system. Why he would need to study the information system? Why? Because it is the information system which is capturing all the information which is relevant to financial reporting. So he is concerned that all the valid transactions are recorded, that transactions are initiated, recorded, processed, and corrected, and are properly reflected in accounts. So obviously these controls are required to be studied by him. So theoretically, it is a separate component of internal control. Okay, clear, guys? So now we come to number 4. Control activities itself. So what are control activities? Control activities are the policies and procedures that help ensure that management directives are carried out. Now, which policies and procedures help to show that management directives are, that management instructions are carried out? Say, which are those policies and procedures? Now we'll see. First we'll see, then we'll come back to this topic, significant risks. So we can have a look at the chart, at the diagram. Like performance reviews. This I've already told you. And A transaction is authorized, performance reviews what were the targets and how these were achieved, and physical controls. This you all already know, physical controls relating to some assets. Segregation of duties we have already understood. And then is information processing. So what is information? How the information is processed to to generate the output. Okay, so what are the related controls pertaining to that? So now we will first discuss monitoring of controls, then we will come to this topic of significant risks. Fifth component was monitoring of controls. So what is monitoring of control? Monitoring of control is to assess the effectiveness of internal control performance over time. Okay, so over a period of time, whether the controls were effective or not, whether they were able to prevent the errors, or if the errors were prevented, if were not prevented, whether they were able to detect and correct those errors. Okay, so these all basically it means evaluation. It means evaluation. So management accomplishes monitoring of controls through ongoing activities, separate evaluations, or a combination of the two. Okay, कैसे भी मैनेजमेंट उसको मॉनिटर कर सकती है. It can separately evaluate, or as the controls move, as the controls are put into operation, so the evaluation process also goes on simultaneously. Okay, like there is a control that physical verification of stock is to be conducted at quarterly intervals. So whether this control has been effective or not, what were the observations by the of the persons who made the physical verification, or what were the observation of responsible persons. So the evaluation process is also an ongoing process. Okay, or it can be separate also. So there is one more topic, subtopic in this, in controls. It is significant risks. So guys, this topic is also very important from examination point of view. Significant risks. Now what constitutes a significant risk? So we are saying significant risk. The auditor has to look into significant risk. What constitutes a significant risk? So as part of risk assessment, guys, you know that auditor shall determine according to his professional judgment which risk is a significant risk. So in determining, SA 315 states that in determining what risks are significant, the auditor shall consider at least these of the following, at least these things. Okay, so we are now talking about significant risk. So the risk has not materialized, but I am performing risk assessment procedures, say, and out of those I am into identifying significant risks. Now which risks I shall consider as significant or important from my point of view, from point of view of auditor? When the risk is a risk of fraud. Say if I identify that there is in this situation, there is a risk of fraud. Whether it would happen or not, it is a different thing. It is altogether different. Risk hai ke nahi hai? When there is a risk of fraud, then it means it is a significant risk. Okay. When the risk is related to significant economic, accounting or other developments or changes in regulatory environment. Say there is new requirement in law, there is new requirement in regulations, or say some new judgment of Supreme Court has come, of the apex court has come, which directly impacts the financial statements of the company. Okay, then there would be a risk that financial statements might be misstated because the company might be not be having knowledge of that thing. Okay. Now Krishna, you are asking page number kya hai? So page number is 4.25. 4.25. Just below this diagram. Okay, whether the risk is related to significant economic, accounting or other changes in other regulatory developments. Okay. Yes, risk of material misstatements. Darshan, risk of material misstatements are broad. Okay. Not all risks of material misstatements are significant. But here we are talking about significant risks. So when the auditor is performing risk assessment procedures, he has to identify, he has to use his judgment to identify significant risks. So when there is a risk of fraud, we are not talking about actual fraud. We are just talking about a possibility. Remember. So when there is a risk of fraud, when the risk is related to recent changes in regulations, law, or when the risk relates, or when there is some complexity of transactions, say the company has acquired some new business, so accordingly the complex transactions are to be recorded. Okay, so this factor would also translate into a significant risk. There would be a possibility that the company has not passed proper entries relating to this, because these by nature these are complex entries. Okay, when the risk involves significant transaction with related parties. Okay, when there are transactions with related parties, so it also becomes a significant risk. It also leads to possibilities of manipulation. There could be chances of manipulation. Okay, so this would be identified as a significant risk. So what we are considering, what we are studying are the factors which the auditor shall consider in exercising judgment as to which risks are significant risks. So another factor could be the degree of subjectivity in measurement of financial information. If some financial information reflected in financial statements is highly subjective, it is greatly influenced by the judgment of the management. Okay, then again it would be prone to misstatements. It would have a greater chance of being misstated. So it is not that it would be misstated, but it has a possibility of being misstated. Okay, So clear? So guys, you have to remember all these points. This question has come few times and it may be repeated. So what are the factors which the auditors should consider while deciding whether a risk is significant risk or not? So the auditor, this is a direct question. So unless you remember all these points, then you will not be able to write. Now suppose we go to a hypothetical situation. Say Kiran Shukla, are you listening? So you you are worried about your how to write the answers. So say if you, again I assume that you forget all these. Sometimes while preparing you had remembered these points. Okay, when you were revising uh, in your home, you had also remembered these points, but at the examination time you were not able to have a glance, and sitting in the paper you are blank. The question comes, say this very question comes, and you are blank, but you have understood the chapter. So first thing is that whether you are able to understand the question. So if you are able to understand the question and you see that question is asking me to answer what are the factors that auditor should consider while determining whether risk is significant or not. So obviously, naturally, logically, some 2-3 points should come to your mind. Let's say if there is a chance of fraud, if there is a risk of fraud, or if there is a risk, significant risk of related party transaction, or if their transactions are complex, then these things should not naturally come to your mind logically. Because why? Because you had studied the chapter, you had understood. So you can write. So if 5 points were there and it was a 5-mark question carrying weightage of 1 point each, and you wrote only, you were able to write 3 points correctly, it's well done. You would be getting 3 out of 5 straight away. Clear, guys? Now one question, Sayyid, he is asking, I am studying each topic thoroughly and preparing notes also. Will attempt RTPs in 5 days. Yes, Sayyid, RTPs relate to the whole syllabus. So what you can do, you select the questions which relate to these 4 chapters. Okay, and try your hand. You need not uh, write per se. Okay, you can write one answer, but after reading the question, just think in your mind what should be the answer, what was your thought process, what should be the answer. Think yourself independently and then cross tally with what answer is given in your RTP. So that would be a best strategy. And one question you can write yourself also to see how your hand moves, how your finger move, and can are you able to express your thoughts? Are you able to translate your thoughts in language? Okay. So clear, guys? Is that clear? And one more thing is, risk of material misstatement is greater for significant non-routine transactions. So what are non-routine transactions? Yes, students, anybody, what are non-routine transactions? non-routine transactions, as the name indicates, students, these do not happen frequently, regularly. Say sale transactions are happening, these are happening daily. So these are routine transactions. Yes, sale of fixed assets, Varsha, you are saying that is correct. So non-routine transactions are those transactions that are unusual due to either size or nature. So either because of their size, these are huge in volume, okay, or nature, or like example Varsha is giving, sale of fixed assets, okay, and therefore they occur infrequently, less frequently, not on a regular basis. Or say there might be when the financial statements involve estimates, so it involves subjective judgment by the management. So these all factors induce an element of uncertainty. So risk of material misstatement is greater for significant non-routine transaction. This topic, this question is also very important, guys. Okay. Yes, Sonali, periodical transaction can also be said as non-routine. Yes. What is non-frequent? What is non-routine? Okay. So it means it is not occurring regularly. So risk of material misstatements may be greater for significant non-routine transactions arising from matters. Yes, Tanisha, it is our duty to help you out, guys. So it is no favor. It is no favor. It is our duty to help you guys out, to help you prepare in a better way and to come out with flying colors in your exams. Mere like greater management intervention to specify the accounting treatment, greater manual intervention for data collection, complex calculations. So these are the examples. Like if there are complex calculations or some application of contentious accounting principles is involved, then there is a possibility that there could be a greater chance of material misstatement. Or say if in some matter management is taking undue interest in letting pass some entries, in specifying how these should be treated in the accounts. So it might not be proper from point of view of accounting standard, but say management wants it in that particular way. So it would show that there would be a possibility of greater risk of material misstatement. Okay. So risk of material misstatement. I think we have lost the page. Yes. Risk of material misstatement is greater for significant judgmental matters. For significant judgmental matters. So again the same thing. If judgmental matters are involved, which is significant, risk of material misstatement would be greater. So same thing, like some new judgment has come. So subjective decision has to be taken, complex transactions are there, or accounting principle for accounting estimates or revenue recognition may be subject to differing interpretation. Say some accounting standard or principle is subject to different interpretations by different users in a different way. Okay, so the management might use it to advantage, and that it might happen that that application may not be proper from auditor's point of view. So there would be a greater chance, there would be greater risk of material misstatements. Okay. So clear, guys? So I think it is enough for today. So guys, today we have learned the meaning of internal control. We have understood the purpose of internal control. We know now what are the benefits of internal control, why it is needed. Okay, and we have also learned uh, the 5 components of internal control. We have learned 5 components of internal control. So I am again repeating all the names of 5 components. These are control environment, number 1, number 2, entities, risk assessment process, third is information system, including the related business processes relevant to financial reporting and communication, fourth is control activities, and fifth is monitoring of controls. So all the components, your name of the components you have to remember by heart, and you have also to understand the meaning of all these things, what are the main points, and write it in your own words. Okay, so it is over for tonight. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you very much.